Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Vida. Today I will present about my article journal. The title is Implementation of the ISI Auditory Visual Self-Improve Model Using Digital Visualization Media for Learning to Speak Poetry in Elementary School. And then the abstract summary. Efforts to read poetry have recently experienced a shift. The reality on the ground shows that elementary school student poetry reading skills are still low. This is based on the observation and interview of research with teachers in elementary school, which state that students tend to be less daring to apart reading poetry well. This is influenced by psychological factors, namely feeling foolish, feeling smart, even feeling afraid, and lacking confidence. This is necessary to apply the ASI, Auditory Visual Self-Improve Model, and Digital Visualization Innovation in learning to read poetry in elementary school. And next, the problem of the research. The first, how can the application of ASI, Auditory Visual Self-Improve Model, improve learning to speak poetry in elementary school? Second, how can the application of YouTube digital visualization improve learning to speak poetry in elementary school? And the object of the research describe the application of the ASI model to improve the skill of learning to speak poetry in elementary school and describe the application of YouTube digital visualization to improve poetry learning skills in elementary school. Next, research methods. This research uses classroom action research because it differs from problem obtained in the field. This research includes planning, implementing, action, observing, analyzing, and reflecting on the result of observation. And this research consists of two cycles, namely cycle 1, 2 meetings, and cycle 2, 2 meetings. The research was conducted at the Islamic Elementary School of Sabilillah, Malang. And data collection, the first poetry reading practice test. The test used in this research in the final test of learning activity, namely the test of speaking poetry. And the second, observation and interview sheet. Observation sheet is a data collection tool that is used to record all events and activities that occur and measure the activities of student and teacher during teacher and learning. And the third, field notes and documentation. And then the step for learning to read poetry using the ASI, Auditory Visual Self-Improve Model. Number 1, the teacher map the learning needs according to the student learning readings. Number 2, the teacher display a video of a poetry reading model that is packaged in interesting learning media. Student observe example of poetry reading. Then the student did a wondering activity, namely making question from question word 5 5W plus 1H question related to the content of poetry or how to read poetry. Then student investigate by discuss question with the teacher and friend. And number 3, student are performed into 4 groups. The formation of group based on the result of the diagnostic assessment and the previous meeting. And number 4, student open the teacher Microsoft application, then discuss to learn material about reading poetry. Student find out for themselves the meaning of poetry, how to take good reading poetry. Number five, students and their group members surf the internet looking for a free poem with the time Indonesian culture. And number six, the teacher equates the perception of the content of the poem to be read so that there is no misunderstanding about the meaning of the content of the poem. And number seven, students listen and observe example of poetry presented on YouTube show in the teacher's Microsoft application. And the last, student practice imitation and reciting poetry in the example presented with their group members with technique, vocal, diction, tempo, dynamic, modulation, intonation, and pose. Students observe imitation poetry readings in the example displayed in front of their group friend. Each child stanza and replies to other. The step for learning to read poetry, number nine. From reading this poem, group friend help their friend to improvise themselves. Refining student characteristic and then modifying them with example of poetry reading presented. Student can modify, invite their style and characteristics. After that, the student were asked to perform in front of other groups, and after that, they appeared in front of the teacher and other students. Number 10, students record the process of reading poetry in the form of video on upload and uploading them on YouTube. Number 11, the teacher respond to the appearance of student who read poetry in front of the class. That's why student can be more helpful in being able to read poetry by showing their style and characteristic with confidence. And the last, the teacher conduct learning, reflection, and work on quiz. Okay, the next finding and discussing summary. Data student skill in reading poetry using the ASI model, auditory visual self-improve. Okay, pre-action average value 74 and cycle 1 82 and cycle 2 87 and student break percent KKM 29% and cycle 1 27% and student practice KKM 71 and 73 and cycle to 100%. Okay, discuss. The implementation of learning to read poetry using the ASI model using digital visualization media has increased. The result of the second cycle of learning show a very good improvement and the students were declared to have complete classical learning. In cycle 2, the teacher success in completing the lesson. This shows that innovative learning models and media can improve students' skill in reading poetry. The next step into maximize and maintain what's already exists so that the implementation of the next learning can successful following the learning object. The completeness of the student in reading poetry is 100%, namely 34 students declared complete learning. This shows that at the stage of the second cycle, classically student experience an increase compared to the first cycles. Classically, students were said to have completed learning 100% because all students in reading poetry score 80 and above. This learning mastery is above the target learning mastery of 80%. Based on this percent, the criteria for sex qualitative data are classified as very good criteria. Okay, thank you very much. I think it's enough. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.